Maximilian Alexander Friedrich Wilhelm, Prince of Baden, also known as Max von Baden, was a German prince and politician. He was heir to the Grand Duchy of Baden and in October and November 1918 briefly served as Chancellor of the German Empire, overseeing the transformation into a parliamentary system during the October reforms at the end of World War I. Early life. Born in Baden-Baden on July 10, 1867, Maximilian was a member of the House of Baden, the son of Prince Wilhelm Max, third son of Grand Duke Leopold and Princess Maria Maximilianovna of Leuchtenberg, a granddaughter of Eugenie de Beauharnais and niece of Tsar Alexander II of Russia. He was named after his maternal grandfather, Maximilian de Beauharnais, and bore a resemblance to his cousin, Emperor Napoleon III. Max received a humanistic education at a gymnasium secondary school and studied law and cameralism at the Leipzig University. In 1900, he married Princess Marie-Louise of Hanover at Minden. Upon the order of Queen Victoria, Prince Max was brought to Darmstadt in the Kingdom of Hesse as a suitor for Victoria's granddaughter, Alex of Hesse-Darmstadt. Alex was the daughter of Victoria's late daughter, Princess Alice of the United Kingdom and Louis IV, Grand Duke of Hesse. Alex quickly rejected Prince Max. She was in love with Nicholas II, the future Tsar of Russia. Early military and political career. After finishing his studies, he trained as an officer of the Prussian army. Following the death of his uncle Grand Duke Frederick I of Baden in 1907, he became designated heir to the Grand Ducal throne of his cousin Frederick II, whose marriage remained childless. He also became president of the Erste Badische Kammer. In 1911, Max applied for a military discharge with the rank of a Generalmajor. World War I. Upon the outbreak of World War I in 1914, he served as a General Staff Officer at the 14 Corps of the German Army as the representative of the Grand Duke. Shortly afterwards, however, he retired from his position as he was dissatisfied with his role in the military and was suffering from ill health. In October 1914, he became honorary president of the Baden section of the German Red Cross, thus beginning his work for prisoners of war in and outside of Germany, in which he made use of his family connections to the Russian and Swedish court as well as his connections to Switzerland. In 1916, he became honorary president of the German-American Support Union for Prisoners of War within the YMCA World Alliance. Due to his liberal stance, he came into conflict with the policies of the Oberste-Heerleitung Supreme Command under Paul von Hindenburg and Erich Ludendorff. He openly spoke against the resumption of the unrestricted submarine warfare in 1917, which provoked the declaration of war by the United States Congress on April 6. His activity in the interests of prisoners of war, as well as his tolerant, easygoing character gave him a reputation as an urbane personality who kept his distance from the extremes of nationalism and official war enthusiasm in evidence elsewhere at the time. Since he was almost unknown in public, it was mainly due to Kurt Hahn, since spring 1917 in the military office of the Foreign Ministry, that he was later considered for the position of Chancellor. Hahn maintained close links with Secretary of State Wilhelm Solf and several Reichstag deputies like Duard David and Konrad Heumanner. David pushed for Max to be appointed Chancellor in July 1917, after the fall of Chancellor Bethmann Hollweg. Max then put himself forward for the position in early September 1918, pointing out his links to the Social Democrats, but Emperor Wilhelm II turned him down. Chancellor appointment. After the Oberste-Heerleitung told the government in late September 1918 that the German front was about to collapse and asked for immediate negotiation of an armistice, the cabinet of Chancellor Georg von Hartling resigned on September 30, 1918. Hartling, after consulting Vice-Chancellor Friedrich von Payer, suggested Max von Baden as his successor to the emperor. However, it took the additional support of Heumann, Oberst Hans von Hafen and Ludendorff himself, to have Wilhelm II appoint Max as Chancellor of Germany and Minister-President of Prussia. Max was to head a new government based on the majority parties of the Reichstag. When Max arrived in Berlin on October 1 he had no idea that he would be asked to approach the Allies about an armistice. Max was horrified and fought against the plan. Moreover, He also admitted openly that he was no politician and that he did not think additional steps towards parliamentarization and democratization feasible as long as the war continued. Consequently, he did not favor a liberal reform of the constitution. However, Emperor Wilhelm II convinced him to take the post and appointed him on October 3, 1918. The message asking for an armistice went out only on October 4, not as originally planned on October 1, hopefully to be accepted by U.S. President Woodrow Wilson. In office, although Max had serious reservations about the conditions under which the OHL was willing to conduct negotiations and tried to interpret Wilson's 14 points in a way most favorable to the German position, he accepted the charge. He appointed a government that for the first time included representatives of the largest party in the Reichstag, the Social Democratic Party of Germany, as state secretaries, Philipp Scheidemann and Gustav Bauer. This was following up on an idea of Ludendorff's and former Foreign Secretary Paul von Hintz's, who had agreed on September 29 that the request for an armistice must not come from the old regime, but from one based on the majority parties. The official reason for appointing a government that was based on a parliamentary majority was to make it harder for the American president to refuse a peace offer. The need to convince Wilson was also the driving factor behind the move towards parliamentarization that was to make the Chancellor and his government answerable to the Reichstag, as they had not been under the Empire so far. Ludendorff, however, was interested in shifting the blame for the lost war to the politicians and to the Reichstag parties. The Allies were cautious, distrusting Max as a member of a ruling family of Germany. These doubts were intensified by the publication of a personal letter Max had written to Prince Alexander zu Hohenlohe-Schilings for 1/4 RST in early 1918, in which he had expressed criticism of parliamentarization, and his opposition to the Friedensresolution of the Reichstag of July 1917, when a majority had demanded a negotiated peace rather than a peace by victory. President Wilson reacted with reserve to the German initiative and took his time to agree to the request for an armistice, sending 3 diplomatic notes between October 8 and October 23. When Ludendorff changed his mind about the armistice and suddenly advocated continued fighting, Max opposed him in a cabinet meeting on October 17. On October 24, Ludendorff issued an army order that called Wilson's third note unacceptable, and called on the troops to fight on. On October 25, Hindenburg and Ludendorff then ignored explicit instructions by the Chancellor and traveled to Berlin. Max asked for Ludendorff to be dismissed and Wilhelm II agreed. On October 26, the Emperor told Ludendorff that he had lost his trust. Ludendorff offered his resignation and Wilhelm II accepted. Whilst trying to move towards an armistice, Max von Baden, advised closely by Hahn, Hauemann and Walter Simons, worked with the representatives of the majority parties in his cabinet and Adolf Grau paragraph Beere, for the Centre Party, von Payer and, after October 14, Hauemann for the FEP. Although some of the initiatives were a result of the notes sent by Wilson, they were also in line with the party's manifestos, making the Chancellor, his government and the Prussian Minister of War answerable to Parliament, introducing a more democratic voting system in the place of the Dreiklassenwahlrecht in Prussia, the replacement of the governor of Alsace-Lorraine with the mayor of Strasbourg, appointing a local deputy from the Centre Party as Secretary of State for Alsace-Lorraine and some other adjustments in government personnel. Pushed by the Social Democrats, the government passed a widespread amnesty, under which political prisoners like Karl Liebknecht were released. Under Max von Baden, the bureaucracy, military and political leadership of the Old Reich began a cooperation with the leaders of the majority parties and with the individual states of the Reich. This cooperation would have a significant impact on later events during the revolution. In late October, the imperial constitution was changed, turning the German Empire into a parliamentary system. However, Wilson's third note seemed to imply that negotiations of an armistice would be dependent on the abdication of Wilhelm II. The government of Chancellor Max von Baden now feared that a military collapse and a socialist revolution at home were becoming likelier with every day that went by. In fact, the government's efforts to secure an armistice were interrupted by the Kiel Mutiny, which began with events at Wilhelmshaven on October 30 and the outbreak of revolution in Germany in early November. On November 1, Max wrote to all the ruling princes of Germany, asking them whether they would approve of an abdication by the emperor. On November 6, the Chancellor sent Erzberger to conduct the negotiations with the Allies. Maximilian, seriously ill with Spanish influenza, urged Wilhelm II to abdicate. The Kaiser, who had fled from revolutionary Berlin to the Spa headquarters of the OHL, despite similar advice by Hindenburg and Ludendorff's successor Wilhelm Grosvenor of the OHL, was willing to consider abdication only as emperor, not as king of Prussia. Revolution and resignation. On November 7, Max met with Friedrich Ebert, leader of the SPD, and discussed his plan to go to Spa and convince Wilhelm II to abdicate. He was thinking about setting up Wilhelm's second son as regent. However, the outbreak of the revolution in Berlin prevented Max from implementing his plan. Ebert decided that to keep control of the socialist uprising the emperor must resign quickly and a new government was required. As the masses gathered in Berlin, at noon on November 9, 1918, Maximilian went ahead and unilaterally announced the abdication, as well as the renunciation of Crown Prince Wilhelm. Shortly thereafter, Ebert appeared in the Reichskanzlei and demanded that the office of government be handed over to him and the SPD, as that was the only way to keep up law and order. In an unconstitutional move, Max resigned and appointed Ebert as his successor. On the same day, Philipp Scheidemann proclaimed Germany a republic. When Maximilian later visited Ebert to say goodbye before leaving Berlin, Ebert asked him to stay on as regent. Maximilian refused and, turning his back on politics for good, departed for Baden. Although events had overtaken him during his tenure at the Reichskanzlei and he was not considered a strong chancellor, Max is seen today as having played a vital role in enabling the transition from the old regime to a democratic government based on the majority parties and the Reichstag. This made the government of Ebert that emerged from the November Revolution acceptable to some conservative forces in the bureaucracy and military. They were thus willing to ally themselves with him against the more radical demands by the revolutionaries on the far left. Later life and death. Prince Maximilian, Margrave of Baden, spent the rest of his life in retirement. He rejected a mandate to the 1919 Weimar National Assembly, offered to him by the German democratic politician Max Weber. In 1920, together with Kurt Hahn, he established the Schulschluss Salem boarding school, which was intended to help educate a new German intellectual elite. Max also published a number of books, assisted by Hahn, War Paragraphlekebund und Rechtsschried, Die Moralische Offensive and Erinnerungen und Dokument. In 1928, following the death of Grand Duke Frederick II, Maximilian became head of the House of Baden. He died at Salem on November 6 the following year. Children. Maximilian was married to Princess Marie-Louise of Hanover and Cumberland, eldest daughter of Ernest Augustus II of Hanover and Thera of Denmark. The couple had 2 children, Princess Marie Alexandra of Baden. Married Prince Wolfgang of Hesse, Landgrave of Hesse-Kassel, son of Prince Frederick Charles of Hesse-Kassel, designated King of Finland, and Princess Margaret of Prussia. No issue. Marie Alexandra was killed in a bombing of Frankfurt by the Allies of World War II. Prince Barthold of Baden. Later Margrave of Baden. Married Princess Theodora, daughter of Prince Andrew of Greece and Denmark and Princess Alice of Battenberg. Through his marriage to Princess Theodora, Prince Barthold was the brother-in-law of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Styles, July 10, 1867–September 28, 1907. His Grand Ducal Highness Prince Maximilian of Baden, September 28, 1907–October 3, 1918. His Royal Highness Prince Maximilian of Baden, October 3, 1918–November 9, 1918. His Royal Highness Prince Maximilian of Baden, Chancellor of the German Empire, Prime Minister of Prussia, November 9, 1918–August 9, 1928. His Royal Highness Prince Maximilian of Baden, August 9, 1928–November 6, 1929, His Royal Highness the Margrave of Baden. Ancestry, references. External links.